BlogTalk Radio.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this program about your Kundalini awakening experiences. My name is Chrism, and I am one of the hosts for the show. The other one is Santara, and she'll be coming on in a little bit here. I'd like to welcome you to this program right after a big election here in the United States and a new president-elect and, a whole new scenario for this country and for other countries as well. I'd like to welcome you to this conversation about your Kundalini awakening experiences and maybe how that comes together with this new election and new things that have been coming along. And so we'll just go ahead and dive right into it. A lot of anxiety, tension on the West Coast of the United States today as the election results are very surprising for many people, and many people are very, very worried and fearful, and there is a sense of doom coming through the air as you walk out and around here on the West Coast. West Coast was predominantly for the candidate that did not win. So, of course, there's that level of doom and gloom. And, of course, the other candidate that did win, is not does not have views that represent, I guess, the majority of the folks here on the West Coast, specifically California, Oregon, and Washington. And so there is that tension in the air. And if you're a Kundalini awakened person or Kundalini active person, this tension can be fairly amplified. You can, the amplified energetics within you can bring the ego into a position of wanting to reevaluate everything. Wow, should I be here? Should I stay in this country? Should I move to Canada or Mexico or somewhere else? And the fear triggers are very, very much alive and present within this current energetic landscape that people are feeling right now, and even in other countries, because the United States has, the way that the United States economy goes, so does other economies that may be intersected with the United States economy go, and so, there's tension, in other parts of the world as well. And I just want I want everybody to just take a deep breath through the nose. And do that 2 more times and just relax with this. Relax with this. You have Kundalini. And for those of you that know that you have Kundalini, if you've been going through Kundalini for a time, there are rough patches that people have to go through. There are difficulties that people have to go through. It is part of the deal when we're going from a mundane, very much an instinctual life pattern and living pattern into a higher level or a more a faster vibratory level that the Kundalini brings a person into, which is more closely related to a divine level. And so there's a broad divide between the two areas. And as you begin to manifest a departure from the egocentrism that you may have been living your life from, that the toxins that are perhaps built up through that expectation-based toxins like competition or the want of gain or the fear of loss and these types of scenarios begin to make themselves much more apparent, because as they leave, they want to hang on. The ego wants to hang on to its pleasures, to its goals, to its competition, to the levels of survival that it has become accustomed to. And here is the level of discernment that you must make. You need to understand through your own discernment that, yes, this is the old me that is still trying to influence the self that I am becoming with the Kundalini. So it's very important for people to understand that even though your candidate may have not won, the world will still go around. And yes, you may be in for a rough patch of 4 years, and you may lose your health insurance. You may lose the ability to stay in this country if you're an immigrant, or you're an undocumented worker. Things like that may occur, and I want you to prepare yourself for that. But I also want you to prepare yourself more for how the Kundalini will help you find your way within these kinds of difficulties. It's very important for you to realize that you can count on this force, this energetic consciousness that is awakened within you. You can count on it backing you up. You don't want to think that it's going to back up or support the egocentric ideas and idealizations that have come to you throughout your life. It's not necessarily going to support those aspects of yourself, but it will most certainly help you and respect the changes that it wants to make within you. And so really look at this and really begin to understand that the world is not coming to an end. In a way, the world is becoming more of a challenge for you. And, it's already a challenge for you within the Kundalini. And then now you add some great changes in the mundane world. And, that kind of exacerbates the whole equation. And so it must be sometimes. We typically will grow best when we're under some form of stress. If we're totally complacent all the time, well, then that's when we tend to lose our self-discipline. That's when we tend to lose the areas of discernment that we need to keep sharp so that we can keep ourselves on track with this Kundalini awakening equation. And before I get too far into this, I want to put out the guest call-in number, which is area code 347-934-0026. That's 347-934-0026. You can call in. You can ask a question. Santara will pick up the line, and she'll make sure that you're not what do they call them, a troll. And then she'll put you on the air. So since I am mentioning her name, I would like to go ahead and bring her on board here. Hi, Santara. Welcome. How are you?
I'm very good. Thank you very much, Chrism. Is my sound okay?
Your sound is awesome, but why don't we ask the people in the chat room? I see we have Mary Jean and Victoria, Manisha, Katie, Atlanta Seeker. Can you guys let us know if the sound check is coming through? Look, we got Mary Jean is right on it. She's typing away. She is first. She's coming around the bend, and so far she is in first place. And all bets are on Mary Jean right now. There we go. Sound is fine. All right. Thank you, Mary Jean. Appreciate it. So, how does the U.S. election affect people in Ireland, Santara?
I think people are just as upset in Ireland, Chrism. It's been on the news. I mean, we've been following the elections here. Well, not me personally, but it's on the news all the time. And it was a huge shock. I suppose, too, because we had Brexit here, which was a huge shock when England voted to leave the EU. There has been some talk about similarities, a certain arrogance from certain quarters that it couldn't possibly happen. And so from that perspective, maybe we were watching that aspect a little bit more closely, knowing that this could happen, you know, with because very few people wanted Trump to win.
Well,
but
in
anyway,
Europe,
yeah, so
Europe as a total. Yeah, and so doesn't this really give us a very interesting task within a Kundalini awakening context? You know, how we deal with this. First of all, since she's just been elected, we don't know how it's going to go. Although, you know, if you look at some of the cabinet members that are lining up to be assigned, you know, very important cabinet positions, wow, you can see some fairly challenging, morally challenging figures lining up, all of them with a degree of possession going on within them. And so, yeah, it really, really puts a bit of pressure on Kundalini people, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Absolutely does. Because I think I know a few Kundalini people myself who are really upset, Chrism, and I've seen a lot of comments on people who have joined our groups. And I wonder, are people who have Kundalini, do they feel this more strongly, Chrism, or not?
Oh,
do
yes.
you think?
Oh, yes. I mean, you know, I felt the vibrations coming through the airwaves, and I don't mean like radio waves or television waves or anything like that. I mean in the air itself. I felt the fear. I felt the fear when, you know, when the Democratic candidate lost, and I felt I felt this terrible crash, this emotional crash occur. And this sense of hopelessness and the sense of immense levels of fear beginning to rise up because of the fear of the unknown, and that the outcome was so unexpected for people out here that it just kind of blew everybody away. Evidently there too. Santara?
Yes, Chrism, absolutely. That said, whoops, just dropped my phone. Are you still there?
Yes. Evidently,
okay.
it affected you deeply.
I mean, just from the point of view of the actual candidate, people here weren't too enamored really with Hillary Clinton either. So, you know, that was a very interesting thing, how it came to be that those were the two choices, and the only two choices, really, you know. And
well,
that was fascinating
that's
to
an
watch.
interesting thing, too, because personally, I was for a candidate that got kind of like taken out of the contest by virtue of cheating and skullduggery and lying and you know, really going outside of the lines of fair play, and this was perpetrated by the Democratic candidate and the, you know, the organizations that were backing her up, and this was a candidate that could have won because of the level of momentum that he had. This is the Bernie Sanders candidate, and so, you know, it's very interesting to see how personal gain and personal greed comes into this. And Victoria has asked me to talk a little bit about discernment. And so just so you know, Victoria, I have remembered. So within that level of discernment, you look at how things have played out through the candidacies, or the different candidacies, and you look at how the lessons that are being given to the world are being metered out. And, you know, the Democratic presidential candidate, you know, using these and taking advantage of these immoral and unfortunate choices, paid a dear price for that, because by doing that, a huge number of votes that would have gone her way did not appear. As a matter of fact, I feel it really turned the entire election against the Democrats by virtue of that obvious attempt to manipulate and cheat other candidates in the race out of the Democratic National Convention and things of that nature, and basically doing the job of the other side for the other side. So it's very, very interesting to look at how our behaviors, and this is the point of discernment, Victoria, how, we're discerning how our behaviors, if they are amoral or unethical, how they can sculpt a reality that causes us to need correction, that causes us to require correction, that you will not win. When you're dealing with, what was it? We were dealing with about 100 million people. 100 million people. And when you're in front of 100 million people, a different level of energetic takes over the egregore that those people create. Egregore meaning a like-minded consciousness that the people create just by virtue of focusing on a single subject. And that egregore, when 100 million people are looking at somebody who is cheating and basically cheating the 100 million for the sake of personal gain, that tends to skew, I feel, the appreciation for the individual that is trying to cheat in those ways. And I think that is what happened here. I was listening to some of the news afterwards, and I'm listening for their discernment of it, and I was quite not surprised that they weren't covering this aspect, that they weren't looking at the nuts and bolts of why people would have been turned off by the candidate who is cheating. And they didn't. They did not mention that. And they had, this high-powered individual on the radio saying, well, it was more along the lines of very specific levels of voter interest, and just going on and on and on about that. Now, Victoria's asking me, she's saying, can you please speak about discernment as it relates to a Kundalini awakening involving dark entities or people who pretend to be of the light, but are not and are sent as a sort of test? Okay, yes, Victoria, I will skip right to that. Discernment. In many ways, Victoria, when you're dealing with people that are forming a question mark for you, like a dark entity, for instance, if you're even able to write the idea of a dark entity around the identity of a living person, that's already a question mark for you. And in many cases, it's by their fruit shall you know them. And I believe that's a Bible quote. The fruit does not fall far from the tree. So if this person is evil, or if this person is a dark person, and you're wondering, wow, should I trust them, or should I, is this the man of my dreams, or however it's coming into contact with you, and you already have a question mark over that person, and then you really need to just listen to your Kundalini with it. And one of the best ways to listen to the Kundalini is to be silent with your ego. This aids in your discernment appreciably. And as you feel the energy of that individual, you will definitely get a feeling of whether this person is to be held in a responsible position in your life. Responsible meaning an employer, a friend, a loved one, or somebody to be I would actually get energetic phenomena when I was around people who I could really tell were totally corrupted by entities. Okay, and if you're having experiences where you think people are pretending to be of the light, but they are not, and they're sent as sort of a test, well, that in and of itself is a discernment. And you want to respond to that discernment in a way that allows you to make very, very strong, definitive choices about whether or not you want to be around these people. Now, if you have to be around the people, like say it's your job or something like that, then what you want to start looking at is your level of tolerance and your level of strength in maintaining your high ethical composure within a shadowed experience of strong, shadowy personalities surrounding you. Okay, so it's this is the point of discernment. You cannot be afraid to call it for what it is. It doesn't mean you have to confront them. Don't have to do that all the time. If they're directly laying hands on you, then of course you may want to confront them. But if they're just people that are, they have somehow been inserted into your present moment, into your perimeter, then you can just look at them for what they are and do not fall into it. Now, because you're Kundalini activated or awakened, you're going to have some of their entities may jump off and try to affix themselves to your energetic anatomy. And so you just don't want to talk to them. You don't want to communicate in any way, shape, or form. You stick to your high ethics, your high morality. And if you want a mantra, I'll give you a mantra that completely surrenders you to the Kundalini. And the more you surrender to the Kundalini, the less of an issue you're going to have with the entities in many cases. And so it's very, very, Victoria is saying, it freaked me out because this person was very much like an imposter of someone I love very much. And so you're using words that tell me that you're already discerning this. You're already getting the information and you're already processing it in a way that is away from that individual, someone who is not being truthful, who is not being pure in their perhaps their intentions with you or their interactions with you. And so you do want to see that as a test. And as you see it as a test, you pass the test by not perhaps buying into what it is they're saying or doing or demonstrating around you. And so Kundalini has already given you the discernment that you require. All you really need to do is validate that discernment, and things will go well for you, my dear. So thank you. Thank you for that excellent question. And feel free to ask any more, and that goes for anybody else that is on there. We have Atlanta Seeker, Brent, and we have some guests there, Manisha, Mary Jean, and we have a few callers as well. And so I think it's very important for people to understand that, just like Victoria's writing right there, Kundalini is going to send us some challenging tests. I know that myself as a teacher, I can be amazingly challenging for people. Oh my gosh. Just ask Santara, ask Rosemary, ask Brooke, ask Joey, ask Manisha. I can be an amazingly challenging teacher with the level of testing that I'll put a person through. Or I should say correctly that the Kundalini in me will put a student through. And it's not, it's not so easy as just cracking open a book and saying, okay, I wanted to give you a test on chapter 4 of the invertebrate versus vertebrate biological sequence of the RNA, DNA. It's not like that at all. It would be more like along the lines of, okay, let's see your favorite forms of surrender, or let's see your favorite forms of facing your fears. And, what are your fears? And, let's go out and explore those fears. This is really cutting really close to the bone of the issues that really plague a person inside of a Kundalini awakening event, or as they are exploring one. And so, I can be a very, very challenging teacher, just like these times right now, this current moment where people are feeling very, very challenged because, first of all, the main issue here is the fear of the unknown. They don't know what this president-elect is going to do. He's already promised to take away medical insurance. He's always promised to kick out certain ethnicities. 1.6 billion ethnicities won't be allowed to come into the country. He's already, threatened the environment. He's threatening the social structure. He is an extreme wild card for a population that are used to a very, very strong level of knowingness about their society, a strong level of expectation. If that your job is secure, that your bank account is secure, that you have medical coverage for yourself, your spouse, your children, that when you wake up in the morning, it's not going to be World War III. There aren't going to be nuclear warheads raining down on you because, some idiot made a mistake in the White House. And so this creates a bit of tension, and the Kundalini person can pick up that tension. And what I'm going to say to you is you have the Kundalini, ladies and gentlemen. You have the Kundalini. And one of your tasks within this type of a scenario is to bring serenity into the populations. Not the kind of serenity that just puts them into a mindless state of bliss, but the serenity that allows them to trust that goodness is still within the current moment, that people are still controlled not only by devils, but also by angels, and the angels will have their say. And so, we can breathe a little bit of calmness into the society around us just by putting it into our radiance. And as our radiance falls upon those around us, so does a level of calmness and peace amidst, conflagration, peace amidst, being challenged. This can be very, very helpful for people's health and people's ability to remain stable within challenging scenarios. And so, this is something that I would like to talk with people about today. Now, even myself, though, sometimes, oh my gosh, the triggers happen, and very special triggers, say, for me or my students, a student will come up to me and, I've been working with them for a certain amount of time about a special kind of issue. And once again, they don't seem to be paying attention. And that'll trigger a response in me. It's like, well, what are you doing? Or why are we wasting time here? So we have to watch our responses to the triggers. We have to watch that. And I don't care if you've had Kundalini awakened in you for 1,000 years, you're always going to have to watch how you respond to the known and unknown triggers that are coming at you. And one of the triggers that are coming at the world population right now is the unknown. And that's what causes people to really have the deep, dark fear it's the unknown. It's the unknown quality of what the new president-elect represents and how that is going to play out on the world stage and how that's going to affect them and their family and their security and their survival on this world. And so a lot of people are diving deep into the first chakra right now and trying to find ways to find comfort and security inside of a leadership that doesn't resonate with them, doesn't compel them to feel safe and secure. It's very interesting that one candidate represented a continuing status quo, which would not have been so challenging, and the other candidate represented strong levels of change. And it's the strong levels of change that won out here. And so let's look at that. Let's look at what the Kundalini does to a person. But, the Kundalini doesn't just sit there in a person and go, oh, well, we'll just have this nice, comfortable status quo going forward, and you can continue to be in your egocentric self. You can continue to cheat or steal or lie or whatever, and nothing's going to really happen. But what really occurs, what the truth of a Kundalini effect upon a person is radical change. Radical change comes to the Kundalini people almost across the board. Certainly if you're coming into it with a spinal sweep, but even as you activate, and let's just say you're on a nice long horizontal liftoff, not a vertical liftoff, but a horizontal liftoff, like an airplane versus a helicopter. That can be very smooth, and you can be very somewhat linear and logical, and I've done the 5 Tibetans, I've done the safety program, okay, all right, oh, there comes the Kriya, things of that nature, and it allows you to metabolize the changes with more comfort, with levels of understanding and stability, because information gives you power, and as you have that level of powerful information within you, you can metabolize the changes that the Kundalini brings with a much greater level of depthness than if you didn't have that information. Whereas, if all of a sudden the Kundalini just comes upon you and starts putting you into Kriyas and starts putting you into severe tests of an emotional nature or a mental nature or parapsychological nature, well, you're going to have a very, 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 very hard time. When you start seeing discarnate heads coming out of a wall, or, you start seeing dead people that other people aren't seeing, or you start seeing floating lights, or little people like elves or fairies or leprechauns, to speak to the Irish people. It can be very, very, very daunting, a task for a person to come into a level of stability with that. And so this is what the Kundalini brings. And really, it's not so different than what this election has brought to people. The election thing is probably much less fearful, much more benign. But with the Kundalini, you're dealing with these issues on a daily basis. With the Kundalini, it doesn't just go away. It doesn't, you don't kind of get used to it and go back to work and, oh gosh, here's Friday, here's the paycheck, and oh gosh, oh yes, well indeed I am making the same amount I made last week, and oh gosh, look, there it is, but I still got my medical insurance, and so I can still pay the rent, I can still put gas in the car, I can still put food on the plates of myself, my spouse, and my family. Kundalini's not necessarily like that, because she'll give you very hard challenges that will take time for you to discern, as Victoria was talking about, discernment, and you'll have to actively work on this in a way that you've never had to work on anything else in your life. And I'm going to go ahead and ask Centaura to comment on this, if you would, from the Emerald Isle. Hi, Centaura.
Hi, Chrism. I wasn't listening there because I was speaking with somebody. So I'm just back. What did you want to ask me?
Well, I
Sorry.
was wondering if you felt the lime flavored Gatorade was as good as the orange flavored Gatorade.
Oh, I don't like either. Sorry. No, but
no,
just
that's okay.
cue me. What?
I was talking about how you felt with regards to the many fearful changes that the Kundalini will bring upon a person, and how that is similar to the fear of the unknown that a lot of people are experiencing right now with regards to the election that just occurred, and how we as Kundalini people have to deal with this on a daily basis, over and over and over, as new and perhaps scary things are introduced into our equation. Whereas with the election, people will eventually go back to work, and they'll see they're making the same amount of money, and things of that nature. The Kundalini scenario is far more of a challenge, I feel. And I was going to ask you to comment on that, as well as, of course, the Gatorade scenario.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, well, when I went off, you were talking about triggers, Chrism, and I went before I started to speak with the person on the phone, and I was thinking about, how, well, some of our triggers are known, we know them, and some are unknown, and yes, it's the unknown ones that probably create fear, whereas the known triggers are the ones that present us with, opportunities, let's say, for refinement in a different way, because we know them, they come from the past, they're in the present, we know that they're going to be coming again in the future. They're triggers that we know of, and when those triggers come to us, for me anyway, let's say a known trigger, I can be stressed, or maybe I'm in a very blissful place, or I might be tired, or I might be sick, and so the trigger doesn't change, but I can change, if you know what I mean. So my response to the trigger can be different depending on how I am. And that's something that has been very interesting in terms of my process, because in actual fact, my response to the trigger has to be the same, really, because that's the point where I am being invited by the Kundalini to make changes and not to respond in a way that is to become refined through those triggers. And that's something that comes again and again and again and again as I move through the learning from those triggers and the refinement from those triggers. The fear that I get and that I would have got would be around things that, the unknown. And that's typically, Chrism, my mind. My mind just goes off on its own creation of expectations of what might or what might not happen. And I mean, that's very much, I think, what's happening now in terms of the political situation. So in a Kundalini context, what I would have learned, for myself is to put myself and to come into a position of calmness. And you were speaking about the goodness, and to be in a place of serenity, really, Chris, and to try and come into that and take my mind out of creating what might or might not occur. But you can choose to be not fearful, I suppose, is what I'm saying too, It's a choice, isn't it?
It is indeed. You can make that choice to not be fearful, and therefore, as you practice this enough, if you make the choice to not be fearful about a given situation, let's say you're in a situation where you're going to have to change jobs in like 7 months or something like that, and you haven't been able to find another job. The 7 months, the clock is ticking, and it's like, God, it's on your mind all the time. How am I going to eat? How am I going to pay the rent? How am I going to put gas in my car? What am I going to do? I need to find that other job. And you can purposefully use the amygdala in your brain and put that concern, that worry on the back burner in your mind, and not let it control how you respond to your current given situations. It doesn't mean that you totally ignore it. It just means that you don't allow it to take over. And with Kundalini, we have to do that quite a bit. That amygdala really gets a workout a lot, because, we're not always able to control our fears. And so we jump at the chance to respond to a trigger. And I'm saying, no. Going back to Victoria, use your discernment and say, hey, look, me worrying about this job change I have in 7 months, I mean, what the heck? How is that going to help me find that other job? I'm going to take for granted that the person is actively searching and looking for a job, but not in a panicky state. The person needs to be able to surrender themselves to the will of the divine within. And you see, this is what really separates the Kundalini person from the unawakened person or the mundane person is the Kundalini awakened individual has the energy flowing through them, feels the level of consciousness that the Kundalini can bring. And this is where we must give our trust. This is where we must give our dependency to, because Kundalini is such a big deal for a person as they go through their life that to try to just make your mundane choices based upon your mundane ideologies and understandings and learnings is a huge mistake, because you will not be able to discern the appropriate choice that the Kundalini is offering you by using mundane wisdom to gauge it with. Not going to be able to do that. You're going to have to use exalted wisdom to gauge what the Kundalini is giving you. And which means you're going to have to change your response to a given trigger or a given concern. You have to change that response consciously and purposefully over and over and over until it becomes commonplace for you or second nature for you. And as you change away from fear and into surrender and into wisdom, the answers to your questions begin to fall into place. That job that person needs to have begins to fall into place, or all of a sudden they see it, or they're able to see it because they're not focusing so much fear issue or the fear angle. They're being given by the grace of their own self-discipline and their own self-discernment through the wisdom that the Kundalini gives them. They're being given a gift or a reward for those changes that they're making within themselves that allow them to dissipate the fear response or the fear trigger that we're feeling even now in the atmosphere here in the United States. It's there's so many things that can happen. People think, oh, well, the election's over, it's hard and fast. Let me tell you, many things can happen to a public person that may not be well liked by the population they're controlling. I mean, plus, the person can be a criminal. They can have to go to court. They can get impeached. I mean, it just goes on and on and on, from that level. And so it's very important for people to just begin to put a cap on their fear. Put a cap on the fear, and with a Kundalini person, definitely push that fear by virtue of the amygdala, control it, and bring that radiance of tolerance, of understanding, of compassion, kindness, consideration, serenity, truth, honesty, love, helpfulness. Let these be the radiance qualities that you put into the population. Let these represent the Kundalini in you, and watch the Kundalini positively respond to you as you do this. And let's not forget, I'm not just talking about, having those qualities for people. I'm also talking about having those qualities for dogs and cats and birds and the wildlife and the plants and the waters and the earth and the air and all of the qualities that support our life and our livelihood on this world. Not just with people, not just with, the emotional bodies of people, but not excluding that either. What do you think of that, Santara?
Yeah. I liked what you said about giving our dependency, Chrism. And that is something that really, really works for me when I give my dependency to the Kundalini. That's just another way of saying surrendering, but it's a nice one, because then we're removing my dependency on other things. I'm not depending on other things. I'm depending on the Kundalini.
And that's what I try to teach the people I work with, is that I want them to depend on the Kundalini. And if they can't depend on the Kundalini in themselves, then they've got to depend on the Kundalini in their teacher. And depend and become very, very, let it be a nutritious meal that helps a person develop long enough until they can come into their own level of discernment and give their dependency to their own Kundalini. It's very, very important that they begin to look at the energetic valuation that they give the ego versus the exalted Kundalini. How much do they depend on the ego? How much is that being the dependent target, and how much is this new unknown force that we call the Kundalini? How much is that being given a dependency? And I'm going to suggest that you take it away from the ego dependency and bring it right over into the divine Kundalini dependency, and allow the Sacred Mother to nourish you on your path. Allow her to show you the options that are coming to you. Allow her and him, Sacred Male, to present to you the changes that they want to see made within you. Allow that to become a reality for you. So, if they come to you in the dream state and they're pointing out levels of forgiveness that you can do, then do those levels of forgiveness. Don't just think, oh, that was a dream, I don't need to pay attention to that. Or if they come to you and they say, oh, well, you need to surrender more, and we've given you, a surrender format to follow, and then you must follow that surrender format. You don't want to ignore the instructions that may come to you in a very copious fashion within the Kundalini. And sometimes people do this because it's not comfortable. It's not comfortable to have to trust something that you don't know all about. And so many people get wrapped up into that over-analyzing and trying to figure out the divine consciousness, and it's just impossible to do. It would be like it's the same thing as a one-celled paramecium creature trying to figure out the entire cosmos. Unless they're tied in with the divine consciousness, you're not going to get it. You're never going to get it because the cosmos is constantly evolving and changing. And so it is not a static scenario. It's a very, very evolving type of scenario. And it's very important for people to understand that nothing holds still. Everything is in motion. Some motions are faster than other motions, but the fact of the matter is everything within the physical universe, or multiverse, is in motion. And so are we. And so are you as you embrace the Kundalini coming within you. And really do that. Really embrace it. Take it out of your comfort zone. When I was in Peru this last February, we were really, really, really pushed outside of our physical comfort zones. We were at like over 9,000 feet in the air, and most of us were used to sea level oxygen. Like our biggest altitude would have been 80 feet. And here we are at 9,000, over 9,000 feet, almost 10,000 feet in the mountains of the Andes in South America. And it pushed us out of our comfort zone. That pushed us in a way that made breathing one of the most important things you could do during the day. And you had to really take the time to catch the breath, or to take whatever you could take in order to allow breathing to occur in a fashion that gave you enough oxygen. And so this really, 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 we were forced by our circumstances to go into a first chakra response when it came just with breathing the air. But we all did that. We all made that adjustment. We made it without fear. We, some of us chewed the coca leaf and things of that nature, and everything worked out, fairly well. But it was not the easiest thing to do. And with Kundalini, the air that you breathe can be fairly thin at times. It's the air of understanding, shall we say, the air of your over-analysis can be very thin because she won't let you know all the time. Here's the deal, and I've said it before in other programs, and I'm going to say it again here. Without trust, when you're forming trust, when you're developing trust, you can't know the answers. When you're developing trust, you cannot know the answers. Or there's no need for trust because you already know the answers. Can I hear an amen, Santara?
Amen. Absolutely.
And so you've got to trust. You've got to trust. And
that actual sentence is something that you've always said. As long as I've known you to say that, and that has helped me greatly in my process. Greatly, not to overanalyze, and I think it's huge. I think it's one of the best teachings that there are that you've given within the context of Kundalini, because it is pivotal, really, isn't it, as to how we proceed into our process, particularly when it gets so confusing and we have absolutely no clue what's happening.
Absolutely. Let's go back to this person, this fictional person that, their job is changing. They got to get another job in 6 or 7 months. And, that's just enough time that if you really buckle down, you could really, probably find one. And so you're analyzing. Well, let's just say you're stuck in one place or whatever. Your job is so involved that you can't leave. Say you work at a hospital or something, and you're in the ER or whatever. You can't just like up and go and look for other employment. And so that person must trust that the Kundalini is following them and looking at them and perceiving them and discerning what the next best move for that individual may be. And that person must trust the divine consciousness. Instead of always falling back, it's like, oh my God, what kind of a job am I going to have in the next 7 months? Oh my God, what am I going to do? And then just getting into this whole panic zone unnecessarily. We have to trust. We have to trust. And when you're developing that trust, and when she, the Sacred Mother, Sacred Shakti Kundalini, is developing that level of divine trust within the individual, then you cannot know the answers. And you cannot overanalyze, because all that's going to do is just taking trust out of the equation, and you're trying to force some sort of an ego-based analysis of the situation that gives you some sort of comfort about what your next step may be, and a lot can happen in 6 or 7 months. It's over half a year. A lot can happen. A job can show up in 3 days or 3 months. And so, and I know a lot of people, are having that scenario. That's why I like to use that example, because, jobs come and jobs go. And if your job is ending and you have to get something different in a certain amount of time, that can really eat up a lot. You can waste a lot of time on anxiety and overanalysis based upon not having enough information about what city you're going to, what country you're going to, where where the job market is, and what the Kundalini wants you to do. And Brent is talking on the chat room here, and I'm going to go ahead and read. He says, "Hi, Chrism. I had the fortune of meeting you in a dream. Hopefully I was dressed. That's all I ask. I had the fortune of meeting you in a dream. You taught me a mudra which had me regress to the past to heal a trauma. Thank you." You're most certainly welcome. That would have been my Kundalini that you met. And he says, "My Kundalini is also awakened. People have been telling me that they have met me in dreams where I have offered them guidance too. Can you speak about these kinds of dream encounters?" Well, yes, Brent. Thank you. Brent, thank you for bringing that subject up. That's very much... that is a very, very common occurrence, is the Kundalini within the individual will form itself into the visage or the actual personality of a person that may be giving specific levels of wisdom that may help the individual with their Kundalini equation. And I have been blessed to have been replicated by Kundalini in such ways many times. And it is the Kundalini. Do not make a mistake. It is not the person bilocating, unless, of course, it is. I have done that before as well. But typically, the Kundalini that will take the personality of Chrism, or in your case of Brent, and send them to an individual, send that personality force to the individual to give them levels of guidance that they need to help them on their path. And so I think that's great that that's happening with you, and may you continue to give them the excellent guidance that I'm sure your Kundalini is offering them, Brent. Nice going. Very good. Maybe you can discuss, Brent, the mudra that was given to you, so that maybe others can participate in that mudra as well. Describe what fingers are touching what fingers and things of that nature. So yeah. I think this is very good that as we talk about trust, and so as a teacher, I'm constantly pushing people over the edge, with regards to trust. I'm pushing them over the edge, constantly pushing them over the edge and abrogating the trust and doing everything I can do to try to corrupt their little perfect world of trustworthy expectation. And it's not easy, but these are the ways that your trust can be strengthened, certainly within a Kundalini awakening context, because the things that irritate you the most about people that abrogate your trust are things of the ego. People tend to forget that it's the Kundalini now that is controlling their life. It is the Kundalini that is allowing specific types of people in their life, like this president-elect here in the United States. It's the Kundalini that is allowing them to live on this planet at this time when such turmoil is taking place. And so we must trust. We must trust that we are in the right place at the right time without trying to overanalyze it in order to fit our egotistic response to this given situation. And Brent is right. He says the mudra involved the thumb, index, and pinky finger or little finger touching, while the middle and ring finger were I see. Well, this is very cool. The thumb, index, and pinky touching, while the middle and ring finger were extended forward. Oh, look at that! Wow, looks like a little reindeer.
I'm doing it here too. I can visualize everybody doing it.
That's not an easy one to do either, though, huh? Can you do it without forcing them together? It's not the easiest one. But I can see how that would be that's very interesting. And Brent, go ahead and give us some information about that the dream Chrism gave you with regards to how that is helping a traumatic scenario, if you would, Brent. Give us a clue on what you are learning from that mudra.
Chrism, while he's typing that, could I ask a question?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, just about dreaming as well. What about when, let's say, a Kundalini person is dreaming and they dream of somebody they know, not their teacher particularly, but suppose it was their sister, for example, or an uncle.
Well, of course, now it's going to depend on what kind of relationship that they have with that individual. I mean, let's just say, was it an abusive uncle that came into the dream, or was it a favorite uncle? Was it a sister that was constantly being in, competition and causing problems, or was it a sister who was a friend and things of that nature? Depending on the relationship that the Kundalini individual has with the person appearing in the dream, will determine the quality and the type of teaching, perhaps, that the person is receiving. So let's just say it was an abusive uncle that appears to the Kundalini individual. Well, that can be a lot about forgiveness, moving on, not holding that grudge, not letting the family be ripped to pieces because that one person perhaps made a bad mistake. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, Chrism. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
I do.
Yes. The quality the quality of the relationship determines the, if it's a close person. Now, if it's a stranger, well, then you're going to have to listen to what the stranger says, and then a lot's going to depend on, what colors is that stranger wearing? What does that stranger look like? Are they an attractive person? Are they an ugly person? Are they a neutral person? Do they have a dark quality? Do they have a loving quality? Those types of informational intake will also occur within the dream, and so that's also a level of information that you'll be able to use to give discernment about. And Brent has answered. He said, I had asked you about healing, and you showed me this mudra, and you had me sit facing north, which is right, then west, south, then east. Suddenly, I was about 15 again, reliving a painful experience with an old girlfriend, except this time I was reminding myself to let go, that all is well, and giving myself permission to feel what I was feeling. Wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. So I can see how this mudra and this perhaps forgiveness could really be helpful for people that are having heartbreak, or people that have been, severely traumatically damaged in some awful emotional way. And this mudra, this excellent mudra, and I want to thank you again, Brent, this mudra, and perhaps coupled with a level of forgiveness and a level of permission to feel, and then to permission to move beyond that feeling. What a very, very beautiful thing. I want to thank you, Brent, for bringing that into our conversation and bringing this mudra technique into our conversation as well. And Miriam C. is asking, is the time it takes to raise the Kundalini in any way, not sure what RELT spells, and you're welcome, Brent. Absolutely, you're welcome. Is any way, I guess, maybe relevant or something like that. Miriam, you're just going to have to rewrite that one a little bit here. I love that mudra. Santara, what do you think?
I like it, Chrism. What I like about it is I have to be very focused or something to keep doing it.
Well, I have to force my fingers into it too, but I really love it. It's a good feeling mudra there. Yeah. Reminds me a little bit of Kubera with the three, the three on the, the thumb tip, the forefinger tip, and the fingertip, and the two outspread. Yeah, that's very cool.
Except
you can
actually, it's easier.
Yeah, you could get maybe some bandages or some tape and just kind of tape it together until your fingers learn, how to do it. Miriam is saying, how often one has fallen in the past. Oh, that's very good, Miriam. So Miriam's question is this: is the time it takes to raise the Kundalini in any way related to how often one has fallen in the past? Well, let me explain fallen first. I don't see fallen as, fallen away from the Kundalini. I say that when we fall, we literally fall from the heavenly realm into the flesh realm. And when we fall from grace, that is exactly what occurs when we fall into the infant body that we're going to inhabit and grow into a mature adult human being. So that's the fall. And that is accepting an invitation for evolution. So in the same way, you can see this, that, that if you had failed in activating the Kundalini in the past, well then, yeah, you have fallen into that evolution. And so, as I mentioned earlier on one of the groups today, it's like the Kundalini will happen when it needs to happen for the individual. You may have needed to fall in those previous attempts with Kundalini. You may have that may have been a requirement for you, and in that way, that was a good thing. That was a good thing for you to experience. And will it affect the amount of time it takes? Yes, it can. It can actually speed things up. I've been working with people for, so long now. And some of the people have a very, very long process. And typically the long process that I have found are for those that are new to the Kundalini. They're kind of going through it step by step by step. The people that have the short, fast, and furious equations are those people that, as you suggest, have come close, very, very, very close to the Kundalini in a past life, but didn't quite get to the spinal sweeper, didn't quite get to where, perhaps their aim was. And these people have an extremely fast equation, and they are put through the ringer, let me tell you. It takes me by surprise sometimes, when I come upon a person who's obviously they've had it in the past, they're being downloaded information, or they're able to stream Kundalini in some way, shape, or form, like healing or whatever. Those people, boy howdy, they got to hang on to their hat, because they're going to get a lot of information in a very short amount of time, and they're going to make a lot of evolved, how should I say this? They're going to experience a lot of evolution in a very short period of time. And boy, the ego can really take a hit for that. And so, Miriam, if this is happening to you, how is this happening to you, Miriam? What are you in a very, very fast equation, or are you in a very, very nice, long, drawn out equation? And we'll wait for Miriam to type that out. Santara, what would you say you are?
I personally think I'm in a fast one, and yes, I'm also. It's fast, Chrism, because it's fast, Chrism. Since my awakening happened, my God, things have, it's fast.
Okay, all right. Yeah, mine. As I've mentioned in other programs, your Kundalini is one of the few things besides your memories that you get to take with you into the afterlife, and the Kundalini will insert itself into the new body, the new infant, should you choose to take one, and that's what happened to me. And so I feel I've always been in a Kundalini equation. I've never been outside of it while I've been in this body, and so. At the same time, mine is a very, very long process, but it's very, very short at the same time, because, there's always something to learn. A person never comes into the body behind the veil and doesn't get to learn something. I don't care if they've had Kundalini 10 times in the past. There's always new learnings to acquire, and there's always new things to experience. And so that's what happened to me. So in my sense, it's fast and it's long at the same time for myself. And Miriam is writing. She says, I just began abstaining from... What do you think that is? I'm going to hesitate. I just began abstaining from, about a year ago. I guess that might be orgasms. It is rising fairly quickly. Okay. Orgasm. Yes. Okay. That's just one part. The whole sexual thing is only one aspect of it. That would be kind of like saying crying is an aspect of the emotional body. Well, sex is, it's just one aspect of the physical being. And so I wouldn't put too much of an emphasis on abstaining from an orgasm quite yet. Victoria is writing, can Kundalini change a person's life completely around quickly? Say someone who has addictions, issues with negative entities, just going on a real apparent downward spiral? Yes, indeed, Victoria, absolutely. The Kundalini will do this, and it will do it so fast your head will spin. especially with the addictions. With negative entities, that may take a little bit longer because the Kundalini is allowing negative entities to come into your space to teach you very specific levels of inner strength, of sticking with the high moral, extremely ethical path, even though the entities are saying terrible things around you. Perhaps finding a teacher that is teaching you to be able to withstand this without trying to go, in the name of Jesus, be gone. This just doesn't work. And so the Kundalini is allowing negative entities to come into the individual space to teach very, very, very specific things. And if you're going into an apparent downward spiral, well, let me tell you what, as soon as you hit ground, you're going to bounce up so hard, so fast, so furious, you'll be like an upward spiral. You'll be a little mini tornado. And this is just the way it goes with Kundalini sometimes, Victoria. It's a definite sine wave, meaning you have your ups and your downs, and your ups and your downs, and your ups and your downs. And it's very important for people to understand that they're not always going to be going in a downward spiral. Pretty soon, they're going to hit the ground, and they're going to bounce right up, and they're going to be heading up to the peak again. And it sounds a little bipolar, I admit, but this is how our consciousness is expanded. This is how our enlightenment is unfolding. We have to go to the extremes in order to go beyond that extreme and have that experience, and then go all the way back down the entire ladder, so to speak, and have the opposite extreme happen. And this is how our horizons are broadened. And so, yeah, you're never going to be in a permanent downward spiral. Never, ever, ever believe that. Don't let anybody tell you that. And while Victoria is typing, do you have any questions that you may have collected, Santara? And I shout out hello to Josephine and Brooke and Rosemary and Joey and the driver that is listening as they drive. Uh-oh, did I lose you, Santara? Is BlogTalk kicking you off? All right, then we'll just continue onward. So, yeah, these are some really, really good questions, and I'd like to welcome David to the show. Hello, David. Let's see, Victoria's writing. So it wouldn't be rare that a person like that would even get Kundalini in the first place.
Hi, Chrism.
No. Yes.
Aha, I just went blue.
Yeah, you've been red for me. Let me finish with Victoria here just for a second. And Victoria
Sure.
is saying, so it wouldn't be rare that a person like that would even get Kundalini in the first place? No, it would not be rare. It would not be rare at all, Victoria. Like I said, Kundalini can really resemble a fairly severe sine wave where you have very, very, very tall peaks and very, very, very deep valleys. And if a person felt like they were going in a real downward spiral, that just means they're going into a deep valley and getting ready to climb up a very, very steep peak. And so it's very good. It is normal. It is not to be vilified. It is part of the expansion that a person needs to experience while they're being refined by the Kundalini. This is very important that you understand this, Victoria. These are normal scenarios where you have the deep, deep valleys and the high, high peaks, because this is the qualities of the Kundalini that it brings to an individual. It's an expansion into grace. And grace, as it refines a person, can force that person to stick their face, into a very, very, very deep valley and to have to climb up a very, very steep peak. And these are the qualities that a person has to accomplish as they go through a Kundalini awakening. So you're doing great, Victoria. Don't lose hope. You're going to hit that ground and bounce right up. I promise you that. And Santara, yes.
Excellent. Okay, Chrism, the first question is from the group. I was wondering, I know ginseng can be K compatible, but I was wondering about maca as a root it's maca root as a supplement. It's invigorating like ginseng.
What were they saying about what was the first one?
They're wondering about ginseng because it can
ginseng,
be compatible with Kundalini. That's the first thing.
Ginseng.
Is that true?
Yeah. Yes, it is.
Okay, and so they're wondering then about maca as a supplement. It's invigorating like ginseng.
No.
Yeah, helps the adrenals.
I have not found maca root to be as invigorating as ginseng. It's a very different thing. Maca root is not an adaptogen, whereas ginseng is an adaptogen. And adaptogen meaning that the ginseng has a quality within it that allows the body to pull it to where the body needs it most. Whereas maca has more of the ability to give strength in high altitude. Maca is an Incan root that grows at like the 10,000 foot range in the Andes Mountains of South America, and they use that as a protein source and as an oxygen supplement, or at least it opens up oxygen reception within the body. Ginseng, on the other hand, has more of a curative type of interaction with the body. And I've taken both of them, and I found, for me, myself, Siberian ginseng, American ginseng, red Panax ginseng to be the most beneficial. And, of course, for ladies, Dong Quai, Dongquai, ginseng for sacred femininity. And either gender can partake of the maca root. Over.
Okay, and the next part is wondering about carob as opposed to chocolate for a K person. Carob has the ingredient theobromine and chocolate has it too. It's similar to caffeine in chemical.
Just a second here. Magic, let's see. And then magic art is quite fierce grace sometimes, especially if there's lots of resistance to the process. Yes. Kundalini can be quite fierce if you're resisting it, for sure. And Mary Jean is asking about ashwagandha, and I'm not quite sure about that one. That's not one that I have knowingly partaken of. Have you, Santara?
No, I don't. I have not.
Ashwagandha. No. Sorry, Mary Jean. Sorry. Maybe sounds like a country. Now, can you ask that other question a little slower, my dear? Go ahead.
Yes. Carob has the ingredient theobromine, and chocolate has it too. It's similar to caffeine in chemical structure and is a stimulant. So I was wondering, should that be avoided?
Yes, absolutely. If you
so no carob.
Yeah, if you follow any of my teachings, you definitely want to back off of the stimulants. Kundalini is an extreme stimulant all by itself. It does not need help from caffeine or other chemical formulations that are natural, but that are still a stimulant. Let those be for the people that are not going through an activation or awakening of the Kundalini. Over.
Okay. Thank you. The next question is from a gentleman, and it says, off and on since the beginning of the year, I've been experiencing a slight burning sensation when I urinate. I was treated for prostatitis, but I still experience the burning now and then. It seems to occur when I'm doing better in terms of what my Kundalini wants me to do. Just wondering, is this symptom common for others in their process?
Well, it's a given, I guess, that he doesn't have a UTI, right? Urinary tract infection. So we're just going to assume that. Sometimes, if we have a very, very strong acidic intake, the body will expel acids, and they'll also expel acids through the urinary tract system. And so the person would want to look at the level of acids versus alkaline that he's consuming And that can also determine. And also, if he hydrates himself much better, and I'm getting this right now from Kundalini, he needs to hydrate himself far more than he currently is. And he needs to hydrate himself to the point where the urine is coming out clear. The stronger the smell, the deeper, the darker the color, as long as he's not taking a vitamin supplement that has a yellow or orange dye in it. If he's observing the urine in its natural state, and if it's deep dark, or certainly if it's orange, you want to look at internal bleeding. But if it's just yellow or a darker form of yellow, you want to hydrate a lot more. And the darker the urine, the more salt and acids are being released. And so this person, I think, needs to hydrate much more, and there will be less amount of a sting as the urine begins to clear up. Over.
Thank you, Chrism. During meditation, I feel Kundalini energy so intense in my whole body, and gradually I go to sleep through meditation. And that sleep is very strange. No dreams, no changed position while sleeping. It's like frozen there as it is. No sounds, no dreams, nothing. After approximately 1 hour, I wake up and my position remains as it is. Why is this, please? Did my sound go there badly?
No. Your sound was good,
Oh, yeah.
I thought. Yeah. Okay. I'm looking for my answer to this one. Because it was kind of a...
Oh, Chrism, this one I don't think you answered. This was a separate one. It's a different person. I know who you're thinking. Yeah, actually it is.
Aren't they going to sleep with meditation?
Yeah, actually, there's 2 questions on meditation and sleeping. I don't think you answered this one.
Ask it to me again. I'll answer it now.
They're similar, though, in a way. This person says the Kundalini energy is intense in my whole body, and gradually I go to sleep through meditation, and that sleep is very strange. No dreams, no changed position while sleeping. It's like frozen there as it is. No dreams, no sound, nothing. And then after approximately 1 hour, I wake up and my position remains as it is. What is this, please?
This person is meditating too much. I did answer this one. This person is meditating way too much, and they need to really begin to take their control out of the equation. They're using meditation. They're really, this is what I refer to as storming the gates of heaven, and they're really, storming those gates in ways that I don't think are going to be very helpful for that individual. They need to really slow down. They need to relax naturally and sleep naturally, and stop trying to force the Kundalini up through very substantial ways of meditation. And I'm going to read what I wrote for this guy. He says, too much control in meditation. Allow yourself to sleep naturally and release the many controls you are placing on this process. Compliments to you on your discipline. Now have the discipline to trust and allow rather than to push or force. And he's telling me that he's forgotten how to sleep normally, but I don't buy that. Just try staying awake for 48 hours and you'll sleep normally. This is as long as your need to control has arranged for it to last, how long this what's the word when you can't sleep? As long as that's how long the insomnia. Thank you. Will last. As long as your need to control has arranged for it to last, is how long it will last. You have done this. The ego in you has done this. So try to be more relaxed and open to what the Kundalini will have you do. Surrender to grace. And if grace wants your eyes up, then let them go up. My feeling is that to some degree, you're storming the gates of heaven by being so very insistent and following that impatience And, following that impatience up with energetically generative practices. Calm down and begin to open to what Kundalini guides you to do. Over.
Next question. I have heard a few times from people about premature Kundalini awakening. How to differentiate between premature and mature Kundalini awakening and arising? That's the question.
Okay. Premature Kundalini awakening does happen, but premature often is relating to individuals that have no interest in the Kundalini and they're not trying to refine themselves towards having it, but they have the activation and the awakening anyway. And because they have this anyway and they're not looking for it, of course they're going to resist it. And as they resist it, they can suffer greatly. And this also relates to those awakening during, say, recreational drug experiences, magic mushrooms, or even ayahuasca, because even though ayahuasca can awaken it within you, it doesn't refine you towards the awakening. It just activates you. And so as you have these intentional short path drug-related experiences, that can also be a premature awakening, because it's an awakening that relates somewhat to the last guide that I answered. It's an awakening that is controlled by the ego rather than controlled by grace without ego refinement. So the less amount of ego refinement occurs in a person, the harder the activation can be. And this is often what a premature Kundalini awakening is relating to. And you don't want you want to be very careful when you're doing these recreational drug experiences to curb practicing a spiritual type of a practice within the effect of the recreational drug, because you can indeed activate the Kundalini that way, and then you're going to have a real challenge on your hands. So within limited consciousness cannot adequately prepare you for divine merging. And so, but there are some practices that can, and these practices can really alleviate the fearful response to the reality fractures that can occur within the Kundalini. And as those reality fractures occur, you can begin to, if you're doing like a practice of the safeties, you can begin to start making sense of it. And by reality fracture, I mean that it defies physics. You may find yourself levitating. You may be going out of body. You may be seeing elves, or you may be seeing dead relatives or people floating around the house. These types of things can cause a fracture in a person's reality. And these are the things that can really challenge a person inside of an unplanned or even a planned Kundalini awakening. Over.
Thank you, Chrism.
Yeah.
Next question. After symptoms of Kundalini, how much time does it take for an awakening?
I think it takes about 6 hours, 30 minutes. 6 hours, 34 minutes, and 6 seconds.
Ah. Okay.
In other words, it's give or take an eternity, right? I mean, there is no time. There is no specific time for Kundalini awakening to occur. It's different every time.
And is it always inevitable, Chrism, that an awakening will happen for a person?
No, not at all.
No.
Not at all.
Okay. Next question. On the path of awakening, we ourselves go through a transition. We are ourselves confused and trying to cooperate and understand what this is all about. At this time, also, other people are trying to advise or say, what you are doing is crazy, where are you going, do this, do that, etc., etc. What should we do, and how do we deal with all this different advice from others who don't understand what we are going through? Thank you.
Right. The first thing you don't do is you don't take advice from people that do not have or have had the Kundalini awakening occur within them. People that don't have Kundalini have a very, very, very little, a very small, narrow level of information that they can give you. And most of it will be gleaned from the internet in ways that suit the ego consciousness of that individual, which is typically incorrect. And so you don't take advice for Kundalini about people that don't have it. I don't care how many books they read, and I don't care how many letters they have behind their name, whether it's MD or PhD or MC capital D squared ABCDFG. I don't care. You don't take advice about your Kundalini from people that do not have it. Number one. Number two, you begin to look around yourself, look on the internet, look to see what resonates with your Kundalini, not with your ego, not with what you would like to have, but you'll feel a very, very, very specific level of resonance from the Kundalini as you look through and you look for information regarding your personal Kundalini equation. Once you find that resonance, and it'll be very clear, it'll feel like you've all of a sudden run into a wall of truth, and you won't be able to get enough of that writing or of that information source. And so that tells you that, oh, okay, I'm on the right track here. That is how you find the help that you need in order to put you on the right path. I am going to suggest the safety protocols. You can find the safety protocols at KundaliniSafeties.com or Kundalini Awakening Systems, the number 1.com, or KAS1UK.com. And just go to the safety, go to the menus and find the safeties, and then click on the safeties. This will give you a level of information that your Kundalini will probably respond to in a positive way. And you let this level of information guide you on your Kundalini awakening path. And we have a person from, this guy's name is Dreammaster1. And he says, time cannot be manipulated or constructed. We can move through it in manners that may not be so constructed from others' timelines. And, I beg to defer, but that's okay. It's not really about, this is a show about the Kundalini awakening, not so much about timelines being manipulated or constructed. So thank you for your statement, but see if you can make it more appropriate to Kundalini. And go ahead, Santara.
Next question. I had a very weird experience last weekend. I went to stay with a friend out of town and had a dream. The sky was dark and there was an energy on my friend's hallway. I tried for dear life to turn on the light switch to see what there was there, but it wouldn't come on. I then followed the wavelength of the energy with the palm of both hands, and all I could feel was an evil force. Then the next day, I continued to meditate, prayers, etc. as usual. Everything that could have went wrong for the whole weekend went wrong. I can't help but wonder if this is Kundalini related and why. Please help me shed some light on this.
Yeah, I see this as a real definite fear test scenario for an individual. And it's that creepy thing, you're walking in a hallway, the light doesn't work, right out of a horror picture, right? And so the light doesn't work, and it's like, oh God, it's like in the horror movies, the flashlight dies, right? And now you're walking down this dark hall, and maybe the floor is creaking, and your hands are outstretched in front of you, and you feel this evil force, and you're going, what WTF am I doing here? And you just gotta really, really count on your Kundalini and really, really give yourself to your Shakti, give yourself to your grace, and allow the radiance to light your way with that. It's just a test. It's only a test. And it's a test for your fearlessness and your courage and your willingness to change the dynamic of whatever may be in that hallway to a positive, loving, protected, powerful experience of facing a fear and overcoming it. Over.
Thank you, Chrism. What is the ego?
The ego is the psychological self, the self that is all about surviving in this physical manifestation. It's all about your wants and your desires and your fears and your control and your goals and your competition for survival and having the basic needs met, and things of that nature, self-aggrandizement, bragging, these types of things. That's what the ego is kind of all about, and that is the ego. And the ego serves a very, very useful purpose early in the early forms of life. I mean, this is a planet where you do have to compete for survival, and you do have to eat and to run and to compete and to learn how to stand as yourself within a society that is not the easiest thing. If you look at kids, how kids treat each other, it's just amazingly traumatic sometimes. And the ego has to be able to withstand that. And so the ego serves its purpose up until about the age of 7, 8, or 9. And then we need to begin to really pull back, and that's when puberty begins to come in and we begin to mature into our adult selves. But the ego is that force that allows us to survive and to be successful in our childhood. Over.
Thank you, Chrism. And the last question is, can you speak about feeling detached from everything and everyone, and functioning normally, but not feeling like I used to, not having fun or enjoying myself anymore?
Right. This is a very common Kundalini experience where a person is kind of being sequestered away from their social normal patterns of interaction with other people, being taken out of the social stream, and not, it's in a way you don't want to be around people. The Kundalini changes your wants and your desires. You don't want to be around other people. You want just the solitude of nature, or maybe of a person, and one person that isn't, going to aggravate your soul. It's very important to allow yourself to embrace this, and don't think that anything's wrong because you're being taken outside of the social mainstream. This is actually quite necessary for you because we're surrounded by ego. The world here, the unawakened world, is run on egos. And the Kundalini is about ego control, and not killing the ego, but ego control and controlling the ego, retraining the ego to become a more mature constituent of the Kundalini equation. And so as the ego is matured, part of that maturation process is to remove it from the stream of social interaction. Now, let's just say you're a parent, you've got a spouse, you've got some kids, a dog and a cat, white picket fence, the whole bit. Well, even then, you will find times of the day where you're just given to not be around anybody. Maybe you just stay in the bathroom a little bit longer than you normally would, or, that shower lasts a little longer than it normally would. Maybe you just need to take a walk early in the morning, or, in the evening before you go to bed. I mean, this will serve a very, very similar function. It's not saying that you cannot be in society. It's just saying that there are times when you just need to be out of it. And those times need to be honored by you as you have your Kundalini experience. Over.
Okay, thank you, Chrism. I'd just like to give the addresses now people can go to if they would like to make a donation. I'll give two of them. The first one is www.chrism-kundalini.blogspot.com, and the other one is www.kas1uk.com. That's KAS and the number 1 UK.com. There's a donate button there too, I think, Chrism. And the other place where there's a donate button as well is www.kundalinisafeties.com. And that button is working 100% now. So those are the places you can go to if you wish to make a donation, and all donations are gratefully received. So thanks very much, Chrism.
And thank you very much, Centaura. And I just want to say that it's always a pleasure to do this work. But my Kundalini has come to me. I mean, I've been doing this work pro bono for free for over 10 years. And she came to me lately and she said, people are taking your information. They're taking the information that I give to you, to them. And this is good. This is good. But some of these people need to give in order to receive. And so she has had me begin charging for Shaktipat, for her gift of grace into the population. She's charging for that now. But I do still want to encourage people to do it. It is very important to receive that grace if you are on a path of the Kundalini, or if you're looking at entering the path of the Kundalini in a safe format, then definitely do this. But, the donations are gratefully accepted, and it doesn't matter how big or small it is. And I want to thank you, Amelia, for the donation of this radio show, and the other donations that you make. I want to thank you, and I'd like to thank everybody who has made a donation to keep this work going into the future. So thank you very much, everyone. You can also find this information on Chrism.Kundalini, Kundalini, on the YouTube network. You can go to Google+, and there's Kundalini Awakening ! You can go to the Facebook network, and there is Kundalini Awakening ! Kundalini Awakening Systems 1, and the same name with 2, same name with 3 Kundalini people. We have a Kundalini Healing public and private group, both ends. We have Kundalini Radiance Community for those of us that would like to set up an intentional community for Kundalini Awakened people. And so I want you to feel free to partake of any and all of these groups. And thank you, Dream Master. It's great to have you here as well. And I'd like to thank everybody for coming. It looks like David is typing something, so I want to go ahead and see what he's going. iMagic Art says, for donations, is ascension-kundalini-blogspot.com still a site to go to? And I believe it is. Is it not, Samsara?
Yes, it is. That one is also working. Indeed, it is. I just don't want to call out too many. But yes, that's another blog spot. You have a few blog spots, and that one is working. Indeed,
I think I have 6. I have 6 blogs. So, yeah. Yes. Okay. Well, everybody, I would like to say thank you.
Actually, Chrism, I put together a few of the videos that you made in Ireland, Celtic Kundalini 1, and that's on Facebook. And they're listed there. Maybe I've only 10 or 15 done now, but they're all together, and they're all excellent, wonderful topics, wonderful Kundalini teachings. So if you're on Facebook,
we went all over Ireland making those videos. Yeah, there's a lot of videos from Ireland there. Yeah.
So Celtic Kundalini 1, and you'll find the videos Chrism made in Ireland there together, 10 or 15 of them thus far. So, that's this, Chrism. Thank you very much for the show. That was really enjoyable, and thank you to everybody, and see you again this day next week. Do we have more? Has David written his thing?
Yes, he asked about the blog spot. So many thanks, David and Victoria, Mary Jean, Brent. Thank you, everybody. Miriam and Dream Master and Alana Seeker and guest 6815. Thank you, everybody who's called in, the driver, listening and driving. And actually, I would like to bring Rosemary on. Did she already hang up?
Rosemary is gone. We've got 2 MN numbers there, and the second one, Chrism didn't reply.
I'd like to say a shout out hello to Josephine down there, and to thank her for her many gifts of grace. And so thank you, everybody, for participating in the show. We look forward to seeing you next week. Any last words, Santara?
No, Chrism, just to say thank you again to everybody for tuning in, and see you next week.
And thank you, Dream Master, a new person listening to us. And Victoria, thank you for joining us, as well as Miriam C., iMagic Art, and everybody else who I've already mentioned. Thank you, and I'll end the show as we begin it. Ah.